Welcome back to This Week. Time now to get the views of our media and political experts. Nashville Democratic State Representative Brenda Gilmore and syndicated talk show host Steve Gill. Welcome. Thanks for being here. It's nice to see you guys. Let's talk about the Arizona immigration law. The Obama administration has opposed it, saying that the law effectively allows police officers to stop anyone they want and anyone they believe is in the city or state of Arizona illegally. Opponents say the border is broken. Others are thinking about doing the same thing because the immigration problem has gotten so out of control.
I would be willing to bet that President Obama and Eric Holder have not actually read the law in Arizona, because it simply does not say what they say it says. The law allows this reasonable suspicion of that you're an illegal to prompt police action only after a police contact. That means only after you've been stopped speeding, only after you've been involved in a car wreck, only after you've been arrested for some other crime. Then, if you cannot produce identification, then they approach the issue of whether or not there's a reasonable suspicion that in addition to not having identification, you may be in this country illegally. So the ability to go out and just round somebody up on the street as they're, quote, taking their kids to get ice cream, unless you have a wreck on the way to the ice cream store or rob the ice cream store, that is simply not true. And I would encourage people to go to my website, gillreport.com, click on the daily notes. I've got the bill linked up, and I would encourage people to read the law and not just trust what people are saying about it.
It is being challenged as discriminatory. As we heard, the president believes it's a bad piece of legislation.
And I think both sides are right. A survey says that American people, around 51%, wants to see something done about illegal immigration. And I certainly think that the American people are right in that case. And that's probably what prompted the state to feel like that they had to pass something. On the other hand, I feel like that this law in Arizona has gone too far, because it does set up the potential for profiling. And we certainly do not want that to happen. Sure, they may stop someone because they're speeding or they don't have their seat belt on, but we want to make sure that they're just not stopping immigrants that are here. And many times you can't look at somebody and tell whether they're legal or illegal. So I think the law went much too far, and that it's bad legislation, and it sets a precedence for other states. And I feel like the Constitution is not going to pass the muster.
Is this going to be a touchstone? We talked about it 4 years ago. We were here talking about immigration reform. It was the issue, but nothing really happened. Is this going to be the issue that finally Congress, elected officials, decide we need to do something?
I hope it will be, because, again, we're dealing with illegal immigrants here. Nobody's talking about legal immigration here. Nobody's saying we're only going to target those of Hispanic or Latino descent, other than the Latino and Hispanic interest groups who are making that claim. The bottom line is, if I go to board an American Airlines flight or Southwest Airlines flight, I've got to, quote, show my papers. If I go down to get a Blockbuster video, I've got to show my papers. If I want to go enter the White House, I've got to show my papers to get in. Shouldn't we require that same kind of standard for somebody to enter our country? And that means locking down our borders.
On the other hand, you can't have your ice cream and your cake, too. Businesses want this underground economy, and then we don't want to show the same preference to just regular John Does. So I think that we need to be fair across the board. We're certainly not condoning illegal immigration. There's no place for that in America. But on the other hand, we don't want those who are legal to be harassed.
Well, I think Brenda's exactly right. We've got to crack down on the employers just as harshly. And in Oklahoma and in Arizona, they've done that. That's helped reduce illegal immigrants in Arizona by 100,000 people. The problem is there's still 500,000 illegals in Arizona. You've got to do both. You've got to shut out the jobs, close down the border, and enforce the laws of the land with those who are in this country illegally. And you've got to do all of them. You can't just select one or two and say, we're going to give business a pass or we're going to give illegals a pass simply because we don't feel comfortable.
What Arizona's beginning to see, though, is beginning to hurt their economy. Sales tax, all those proceeds have gone down drastically because the immigrants that are there fear that there are going to be some kind of repercussions, and many of them have already started leaving the state already.
Well, and again, though, you're going to get as much savings. I mean, if you're not having the incarceration cost, if you're not having the criminal enforcement cost of all the crimes that are committed by illegals while they're here, in addition to being here illegally, the health care costs that are just absolutely breaking the bank for hospitals in Texas and Arizona, New Mexico, and California, whatever sales tax they're going to lose, they're going to make up in the savings that they're going to get.
Well, and the sheriff down there says that already they're using the federal regulations, and it's much more effective than what Arizona legislators have passed recently, because they're importing those people and sending them back home, where this new legislation calls them to put them into the prisons and into the jails, which drives up the prison costs.
And that's the concern. Border officials say they could do a better job if there was some kind of uniform way that people can get access to this country legally, and as you said, not this underground railroad where employers are wanting to encourage these people to come in as cheap labor forces.
But you shouldn't also let the border continue to be wide open and people just enter that we don't know who are coming in. It's not just the illegals that are coming in. We don't know what terrorists are coming in. We don't know what diseases are coming into our country when you have no control over who's coming into your country. And frankly, it's a little disingenuous for Mexico to be complaining about this when Mexico's illegal immigration laws are much harsher than ours, are enforced much more harshly. If you're deported from Mexico and go back in again, you get 10 years in prison. Perhaps if we'd start being more harsh with those who've been deported 2, 3, 4, and 5 times and keep coming back, we might slow that return.
And I don't think we should assume just because they're immigrant also that they're committing crimes.
And well, they're committing a crime by being here. I mean,
well,
so they're all.
If they're illegal.
Yeah, not if they're an immigrant, but if they're an illegal
we can't look at them
immigrant.
and tell if they're illegal or if they're
That's
legal.
true, but if you are here illegally, you've already committed one crime, and we know that the illegal folks are committing crime after crime after crime. We're talking murders, rapes, robberies, DUIs that kill over 3,000 people a year. It's not just the crime of being here, it's the crimes they're committing.
Obviously, the discussion that will continue this election year. Steve Gill, Brenda Gilmore, appreciate your insight. Stay with us as we continue in a moment.